Hello, it is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to my New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It's a Wednesday puzzle today, perhaps a bit trickier than we've had so far this week. I, for whatever reason, had interpreted Monday and Tuesday's puzzles as being possibly just a little bit trickier than a typical Monday and Tuesday puzzle, but I've seen quite a few comments from people who follow along with the series who say they've had just the opposite experience. They think this week has been easier than average so far. So who knows? Who knows what that means for today's puzzle? It's always impossible to sort of divine that kind of thing. But I thought that was interesting because that's not what I would have guessed. So it's good to hear. And of course, that sort of thing is always very different by person. I will briefly mention something about the Patreon campaign. I got an email that lets me know that the first crop of people who are going to be receiving the mug for the benefactor tier of backer of the Patreon campaign are going to be getting that soon. That'll be mailed out soon. So if you are in that tier and you're entitled to one of those mugs, please do make sure your address is updated in your Patreon account. I don't personally have any control over that. It's entirely handled by Patreon, so I won't be able to help if anything goes wrong. So just double check on that. And if you're interested in what I'm talking about, head over to patreon.com/dailysolve and you can see the various tiers at which you can contribute, including the one that allows you to get that exclusive mug. Okay, so, just realized that the crossword isn't very well formatted. I'm glad I caught that. There we go. Sorry about that. Speaking of the Patreon, actually, I solved the most recent Boss Words competition puzzle for the Patreon campaign as well yesterday. And if you've seen my previous solves, well, I was happy that it went much better than it had been. I think I'm improving at these Boss Words puzzle. Maybe this week's was a little bit easier than normal. That's completely possible as well. But I think I'm also maybe slightly getting the hang of them. So if you're a Patreon backer, you will see me solve that tricky Boss Words puzzle, which is intended to be a little more difficult than a New York Times Saturday, on Saturday, actually. I'll put it up then after the solution is made public. Anyway, let's move on to some clues from yesterday's puzzle about which people have written in. So I had a moment in which I was very pleased to remember the name of the WNBA star athlete Sue Bird, and I really should have stopped there and shouldn't have tried to be clever with anything relating sports knowledge. So as Bradley comments, "You amazed us all with your surprising recollection of WNBA player Sue Bird, but she is not the daughter of NBA Hall of Famer Larry Bird. The two are not related. She is, however, engaged to another athlete you may actually have heard of, U.S. women's soccer player Megan Rapinoe." I have indeed heard of Megan Rapinoe, but it's a good thing I've never said so on the channel because I'm sure I would have inserted some other spurious claim that has no basis, in fact. So thank you to I think a few people who corrected me on that. Apologies. Just goes to show I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to sports. Okay, and Victoria Roziska, I'm sorry, I'm sure I absolutely butchered your name. I apologize. Explains that halva is sort of a category of desserts. It refers to a myriad of sweet dishes that are made from some kind of pulp, for instance, cheese, grains, nuts, that's sweetened with a syrup, sugar, or honey. Some add dried fruit to it too. I do believe the most common version is made from sesame seeds and sugar or honey, or at least that's the version I've seen the most around the parts I grew up in the middle and east of Europe. I think it's delicious, but it's mainly a hit or miss with people. The taste is very strong. And then the mysteriously titled YouTube account replied to say, "I came here to say that halva with honey and sesame or pistachio is gosh darn delicious, and Chris should try it if he's not acquainted." I don't think I've had that. It's possible, but I don't think I have. So yes, definitely something for me to check out. Thank you for the recommendations. And finally, Ben Ward points out that Vanessa Redgrave, who was referenced in the puzzle yesterday, played Anne Boleyn in the 1966 film adaptation of A Man for All Seasons, and Natalie Portman played her in the adaptation of The Other Boleyn Girl, on which I was a production runner. That's pretty cool. Alongside Scarlett Johansson and Eric Bana. So there we go. I think I've actually seen A Man for All Seasons many years ago, and just didn't remember the cast very well. And I never saw The Other Boleyn Girl, so That's why I didn't pick up on that. But thanks, Ben. Appreciate that knowledge. That was those actors were referenced in the puzzle yesterday, and I couldn't remember the films. Okay, so let's get on. Let's get on to Wednesday's puzzle. This is a crossword constructed by Dan Harris and edited, as always, by Will Shorts. It's a Wednesday puzzle, so it'll have some sort of theme, but we've not yet hit Thursday, so probably won't be too wacky a theme. But you never know. Yesterday's was pretty ambitious for a Tuesday, I thought. Okay, ready to get started? Yes. Popular gem matching app game. Oh, Candy Crush maybe? Do you match gems and no, I guess you don't. Sorry, that would be candy. You probably, I've never actually played Candy Crush. You probably match candy in that. So gem matching. Oh, is it Bejeweled? Boy, that is, I haven't heard about Bejeweled in years and years. That was so big for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe? Okay, Blank Keane, the Family Circus cartoonist. Bill Keane, I think, spelled unconventionally with a single L. Actually, it sort of makes me surprised not to see this name more often, although I guess B is not as necessary a letter to fill excess space in the crossword. Okay, blank rap music subgenre. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would guess emo rap, with which I am not personally familiar, but let's look here. Disney theme park designer. I do know this. It's an Imagineer, a portmanteau of imagination and engineer. And one of the Brady Bunch. Jan? Sounds familiar. And scrambled order could be eggs. What accompanies tossing a coin into a fountain? A wish. I have a tiny bugbear about this convention. I have nothing against the convention of making a wish by tossing a coin into a fountain, but it seems to have mutated into a bizarre planetary mass obsession with throwing currency into absolutely any body of water anywhere in any city, regardless of its status as a fountain or anything else. It is incredibly bizarre. I mean, you'll be in some beautiful city and there will be some beautiful body of water and it'll have nothing to do with fountains and it'll be full of coins. It is so strange. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to move on here. A thing is an entity. Taya of TV, I believe this is Taya Leone. Always poetically. This would be air. This is one of the poetic contractions that we often get in the crossword. You also get Ian, E-E-N for evening. You also get air, E-R-E, which I suppose isn't the same sort of contraction, but is a poetic way of saying before. And then we have air for ever, always, poetically. So it's just good to keep those in mind because they come up to fill space in crosswords, not infrequently. Okay, it might be made short would be a long story. That's a pretty easy fill after all those long answers. And I'll wash, you dry. Fair enough. Dishes, I suppose. Okay, let's get back to the acrosses here. Names as a source would be sites, as in academia, or I guess giving a witness statement, maybe? I don't know. Here we have arrived dressed up like. Came as. Here's a good example of something that is a past tense of a verb. It doesn't end with ed because it's a it's a verb that has an irregular form in that regard. I'm only pointing that out because often when I don't know what an answer is, I'll try and use things like plural or tense to stick an ending on the end. And here's a case where that wouldn't have helped. A graph line is an axis, the X or Y axis, for instance. The second song of a single would be the B-side on a record, for instance. An EP, perhaps. Okay. Go-to guy. Go-to guy. Not sure. And here, suits could be execs. I think suits could have so many meanings. It could have suits as a costume, an article of clothing. It could have suit as a lawsuit. It could have suit to mean as a verb to mean to fit, to be appropriate. But in this case, I think it's a slangy term used to describe executives at a corporation. Shortcuts. What is this? Time savers, I suppose. And a go-to guy, right, what is this? A major domo, a maitre d'? No. Oops. Actually, I suppose that does fit, but I don't think it's right. Go-to guy. I'm probably making this much more complicated than I need to. Let's check the crosses here. Multicolored. Hued, perhaps? Labelle or lupone? No, not hued. Oh, pied, perhaps? That's sort of I think a bit of an archaic term at this point, but pied, sort of, I think of it as being sort of splotchy, I suppose. And then labelle or lupone, each of those is a patty. I think in each a performer at that. Maybe a go-to guy is a maitre d'. Let's keep looking. Devices that criminals attack through jackpotting. ATMs, automated teller machines, cash points. I'm not familiar with this vocabulary or practice, but that because of the association of jackpot with huge buckets of currency at a casino, I think it might be that. And to bounce back. Could be bounce back as in recovering, or it could be literally bouncing back. Oh, so this probably isn't maitre d'. Good. I didn't really want it to be. Go-to guy. What is this? Oh, main man. It's true. I was making it more complicated than it needed to be. A classic problem with the crossword, certainly in my case. Western ski resort that doesn't allow snowboarding. Here's one I think I probably actually largely know from the crossword. I think it's Alta. And bounce back again, right. What is this? Paper to fill out when asserting a claim. It's probably an insurance claim. Insurance form, perhaps, could be in the interest of not making things more complicated than they need to be. Perhaps it's simply form and not some sort of more jargony particular form. But let's check the crosses and see. An ISP regulator, so an internet service provider regulator. This would be in the United States, I assume a government agency. Could be the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, I suspect. And to advance slowly could be to crawl. If you slow to a crawl, you're advancing slowly. Oh no, I guess not. Because I do know that the Gangnam Style rapper is Psy. I always forget if Psy's name is spelled PSI or PSY. I think it's PSY. In any case, that would make advance slowly creep. And piggery could be a sty. Don't think I was familiar with the vocabulary piggery, but I assume that is a place where pigs live, or a sty, or a place where pigs are kept, probably more accurately. Okay, fitness center, and here we have a question mark. That indicates some kind of pun or wordplay. Fitness center. So one thing this could be, and I don't think it is in this case, but this just as an example of the sort of thing that happens. Center with a question mark could be referring to the center of the word fitness. It could be referring to an N. And if this were a two-letter fill, it could be EN, a phonetic spelling of the letter N. But anyway, I don't think that's what this is here. It could be core, though. So it's still a bit of a pun around center. And I think in this case, referring to the center of your body, your abs, that sort of area, your core, which you might work out at a fitness center. I think that's what that's getting at. Okay, Battle of Normandy City. Oh, is that Caen? Sure, I'm pronouncing that abysmally, but I believe that's the name of the city. And what do we have here? Has a quiet night, perhaps. Stays in, I would think. A photo lab request could be an enlargement. But running a photo lab, that's got to be an endangered profession at this point. Joint czar with Peter the First. Ivan the Fifth? Let's check the crosses on this. Avant-garde, it's a common phrase. The Jeffersons actor Gibbs. I don't know, but if I had to guess based on the crosses, I would guess Marla. Let's see if that works over here. Places to focus on. Yes, target areas. And then, so we've got two proper nouns crossing, which is always a little bit tricky if you don't happen to know the things in question. And here we have icy hot competitor, which is some sort of medication, and joint czar with Peter the First, which I'd previously guessed was Ivan the Fifth. And if we fill in that N, we get Bengay, which indeed is a product. I don't know how global that product is. I really have no idea. So might be tricky for some. Although if you had enough of these crosses, if you had the IV and the other V here, and you saw Tsar, you might be able to get to Ivan V. That's what I did anyway. I hope so. Okay, boot lined with sheepskin. Is that UGG? The brand name Uggs, maybe? I don't know. I don't really know if they're specifically lined with sheepskin, but this would be my guess. A ball collar, right, would be an umpire in baseball, possibly other sports. Joie de vivre. So in French, this would be the joy of life. And I suppose that's gaiety. Sort of a funny-looking word with 3 vowels in a row. To grind as teeth, gnash. I remember reading once that there's sort of disagreement about what gnash actually means. And we've sort of, I think collectively, as users of the English language, sort of decided that it means to grind as teeth. But the reference to wailing and gnashing of teeth in the Bible is sort of vague. What does that mean? What does it mean for people to be sort of grinding their teeth and wailing? Is that something people do? What does that mean exactly? Okay, puller of strings. Puller of strings. Manipulator, I suppose. Someone who manipulates things, who pulls the strings behind the scenes, I guess. And 1 of 32 by Beethoven. Well, we have enough crosses to guess that Beethoven as a composer would have 32 somethings dealing with the piano, probably. Right. This would be an easy clue to... In fact, I almost just now thought it was going to be a plural clue. I can put an S on the end because there are 32 of them. But no, of course, it says 1 of 32. And I'm sure to most of you that was blindingly obvious that it says 1 of 32. It's singular, not plural. But I still find that to be a common mistake that I can make, is I see a big group of something and assume it's going to be a plural answer, and therefore I'm looking for a different number of letters than I thought. But nope, it's just any one of the 32. So anyway, perhaps it's a piano sonata, a musical form. To make changes to the board. To make changes to the board. It could be a board of directors at a company. Anyway, let's jump back up to the top of these crosses. Fraternal letters. Fraternal letters. It probably ends... Agere sequitur, action follows being. So my guess here would that this would be esse, which is to be in Latin, and we have being in here, but I don't know this phrase, unfortunately. So what is this? Fraternal letters. I think I'm going to have to rely on crosses here. This is a tricky cross. I think this probably has something to do with a sort of civic society, like the Rotary Club or something like that, one of those sorts of things. Schwarzenegger's birthplace is Austria. A whole lot of something would be oceans of that thing. Pedigrees. So pedigrees would be qualifications or plaudits, or plaudits maybe not quite right. I'm not sure what this particular word is. Here we have noted anonymous street artist would be Banksy, certainly the most noted of the anonymous street artists. Oh, and bounce back is to rally, of course. Yes. Pop-up business. Not sure, but let's keep checking these crosses. December 25th. Well, it could be that because of this abbreviation of December, we're looking for an abbreviated or contracted version of the answer, so it could be Xmas for Christmas. Anyway, I was meaning to check the crosses, but I did get a little bit distracted there. Video pinball maker. Again, based specifically on these crosses, I'm going to guess this is Atari. I'm actually not familiar with video pinball, the specific game, but with a 5-letter word and probably a company and having TA in those positions, I'm assuming it's Atari, the classic video game manufacturer and developer. Okay, implied. If you implied something, it may be that you got at it, you got at something, you implied it, you suggested it. Does that work here? Yes, it does. Gumbo vegetables are okras. Okra has come up, actually, strangely, a few times just in the past 2 weeks, maybe, of the crossword. I think once referred to as ladyfingers in the crossword. Pop-up business, right. What is this? Some sort of site? An ad site. Pop-up ads. Not as frequent as they were maybe a decade ago. I remember when pop-up ads were really a scourge of the internet. Still exist, but not quite as endemic. Okay, let's see. To make changes to the board. Make changes to the board. Erase? Piano. Oh, I spelled piano sonata wrong. I'm sorry. Oh, classic problem. I made a it's so frustrating. I was mentioning the boss words competition puzzle that I'll put up for patrons on Saturday, and I made pretty much an identical sort of mistake in that it was actually also on a long down answer, and it absolutely ruined the end of the puzzle for me. It added, I don't know, 2 minutes probably of sitting around staring at the grid at the very end, filling in the absolute last cell, not knowing understanding what I was doing wrong. Anyway, ridiculous. So be careful about typos. To make changes to the board, as in a blackboard, is to erase. Sorry about that. And Charles, who helped invent the mechanical computers, Charles Babbage, who created his analytical difference engine, I guess he called it difference engine, I think. Okay, so fraternal letters BPOE. This might be the something of the Elks. The Elks Club is one of those sort of Rotary Club style things. Order of Elks. Probably something like beneficent or benevolent partnership. No, I don't know. Sorry, I won't sit here ruminating on this for ages, but yeah, it is. I think it's probably benevolent something of Elks, and I can't remember what the P is because I don't know much about those organizations. But someone will certainly tell me, I'm sure, for which I will be grateful. So, I see. Pedigrees are bloodlines, right? So that corrects my misspelling of the Patti LaBelle or Patti LaPone, who spell their names with an I, which actually looks correct now that I see it, but I didn't remember that. I'm less annoyed at myself for that misspelling than I am for piano sonato, which is nothing. Okay, to glorify is to exalt. Is that exalt with an A or exalt with a U? Let's leave it blank for now. I don't want another one of these situations. Hollywood's Haley Joel Osment from The Sixth Sense, I guess. And you know what? I'm also going to leave this blank because this seems like one of those names that could be spelled a couple different ways. E looks more correct, but I'm not going to take the risk. Sorry, I'm getting a number of texts and I'm just making sure nothing's going on. Okay. All right, Museo Works. So this would be presumably museum in Spanish, and works. Let's leave that blank for now. So it'll be individual pieces of art in Spanish, but I'm not confident enough about that to fill it in, so I'm going to move on. To bang shut, as in a door, could be to slam. Comedian Wong, Ali Wong, I think, rings a bell. And we finally get our theme. Here we go. We've got our theme revealer. And after a number of non-standard theme revealer positions, we're back to the standard position, as predicted by Lyle's Law, coined by Daily Solve viewer Lyle, who observed that the revealer tends to be placed in the across clues towards the bottom of the grid, and generally over on the eastern side. And indeed, that is exactly where it is this time. The great beyond, or where each word in 17, 24, 35, and 45 across might be found. The great beyond. Is that space? Where each word might be found. Heaven? Sky? Why am I not seeing this? I'm sorry. Apologies if you've jumped straight to the answer. I have not. So let's keep solving the crosses. Chick blank A. This would be the fast food chicken chain Chick-fil-A. A little fiend could be an imp, literally a little fiend, or metaphorically a child. Downside of checking a bag. Downside of checking a bag. I assume this means checking a bag. In other words, having the airline sort of put it in the cargo hold on the flight instead of taking it onto the cabin yourself. But it also could mean checking a bag as in examining a bag. And I'm actually not really seeing what either one of these is. Goof could be error, goof to make an error. Could also be goof in a more jovial sense, making a joke of some kind, but I'm not sure. So let's look at the crosses. Increasingly outmoded circus role. Oh, lion tamer. So exalt was completely incorrect. So extol, actually, I suppose in this case, to glorify, to extol the virtues of something. So a lion tamer, I suppose, is an increasingly outmoded circus role. I didn't know that was increasingly outmoded. Is that because circuses in general are becoming increasingly outmoded, or because lion tamers in particular, are there may be animal welfare issues around that? I don't really know much about what goes on in lion taming in a circus, or even circuses in general. I've actually never been to a circus. But I'm curious what that is suggesting exactly. I'm not really sure. Okay, ire would be ill temper. Oh, a downside of checking a bag might be a fee. Yes, indeed. I've always thought it's odd that airlines charge so much to check bags when you'd think it would make things easier for them because they don't have a bunch of people battling over bin space. Although I suppose it all adds weight, so anything they can do to disincentivize baggage in general, I guess that's why they charge a fee. Anyway, the great beyond, the afterlife. So, okay, I was sort of thinking heaven, but I don't know why I didn't stay on that thought and extend it to afterlife. So, where each word might be found. Oh, very clever. After the word life. So, each word in these 4 theme answers, all 8 words in these answers, can be literally found after the word life. So, lifelong, life story, lifetime, lifesavers, life insurance, life form? I guess life insurance form? That one's not so good. Lifeblood and lifelines. So this is all pretty perfect, except I don't quite get life insurance form. Life form. Yes, of course, life form, a being. Sorry, yes. Don't know where my mind is today. That was pretty straightforward, and I don't know why I was making it confusing. Yes, so lifelong, life story times lifetime. Yes, life form, etc. Okay, great, very well done. Nice theme, Dan Harris. Didn't really see that one coming. It crept up on me. We had these long answers, and I was thinking, is there something going on with these? I don't really see what connects them. But of course, it's that you can put them all after life. This would be a great component of there's a quiz show in the UK called Only Connect that is about sort of drawing relationships between things with incredibly sort of seemingly unrelated collections of words and concepts, and this would be a good match for that show. Anyway, Hollywood's Haley Joel Wright Osment is going to be spelled with an E now. Thank you, Afterlife. And Museo Works would be Arte, I suppose, Afterlife. And there we go. There's the puzzle. So, it's funny, when I started this puzzle, I suppose because I had some good early long answers. We had Bejeweled, Imagineer, Long Story, all these. It really seemed like it was shaping up to be, I thought, quite an easy puzzle. Perhaps easier, I guess, in keeping with what a number of people have identified about this week's crosswords in general. But I did find it to get trickier as we went on. I really did. So I thought this puzzle actually had a bit of range to it in that regard. Perhaps that's appropriate for Wednesday, the bridge from the easy bits of the week into Thursday, which, as I've said before on the channel, I always think of Thursday as the first kind of tricky puzzle of the week, the first puzzle that really can give me some real resistance. And so perhaps today's Wednesday puzzle, which, at least for me, had sort of a range of difficulty throughout, perhaps it is an appropriate bridge in that regard. But do let me know how you fared. I'm always curious to know, especially when it differs from my assumption. It's so difficult to tell. I try and sort of imagine what the difficulty level of these puzzles might be to someone else, but I don't know. It's almost impossible, I find, to confidently and consistently determine that. But let me know how you fared. There were some tricky double proper noun crosses. We've got Marla and Ivan V and also Ben Gay. So actually those 3 crossing each other. And then similarly, actually here, Babbage and BPOE. So I would expect plenty of people to not know BPOE. And then if you don't happen to know Charles Babbage, that would be an almost impossible cross, because there are plenty of other plausible letters. I would think cabbage, the word. You could think that was his name. Labbage, I don't know. I'm just speaking nonsense now. What am I doing? I'll move on. But yes, there were some tricky, I do think there were some tricky crosses here. So let me know. Well, that was it. That was the Wednesday puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll be back tomorrow, although as a reminder, I won't be solving the standard daily puzzle tomorrow. I will be solving a historic puzzle, and it's actually pretty, it's pretty fun. Tomorrow, the puzzle I'll be solving is the first ever Will Shortz crossword. So, I always say on the puzzle, it's edited as always by Will Shortz, but of course it hasn't literally always been edited by Will Shortz. I believe he's the fourth editor of the New York Times crossword since it began in 1945. And he started in 1993, and it was his very first puzzle on, if I recall correctly, November 21st, 1993. It's that very first crossword that I solve tomorrow, and it's a really good crossword. And I kick it off with a real bonehead mistake that takes me quite a while to unpack, but it's a really fun crossword with a great theme. I really enjoyed it. I think you will as well, and that's because I won't be able to I won't be around to solve the standard puzzle tomorrow, and there might be another couple cases of that over the next few weeks, but I do have some backups recorded, so that's good. Anyway, let's wrap this video up. If you like it, if you like this series, please do subscribe, and then you'll see these puzzles as they go up each day. You'll be able to easily see that first Will Shortz puzzle tomorrow. And if you know someone who might like it, please do pass it along. Word of mouth is really the only way I have to spread this thing. So if you could help me out in that regard, it would be wonderful, and I'd be very appreciative. I'm also very appreciative of the people who have backed the Patreon campaign. And over on Patreon, you can find all sorts of bonus video solves for subscribers and special access to the Discord chat server. Anyone can join the Discord chat server, and people have been joining in recent days. New people, I mean. But Patreon subscribers get extra access. You can link it up with your Patreon account and get that bonus access to the server. And the link to both the Patreon and the Discord chat server are in the description field underneath each video. And finally, some people who donate at a generous level to the Patreon campaign are thanked at the end of these videos, because I do really appreciate their support. It means a lot to me. And today, I would like to thank, I hope this isn't a repeat from yesterday. If it is, well done. But today I'd like to thank Rahul, as well as the inestimable Hood Monster and the incomparable Shantanu Bhatia. So thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Hood Monster. Thank you, Shantanu, for your generous and ongoing support. It means a lot to me, and it helps keep this whole thing going. It helps keep it a sustainable practice for me. So it's very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else who's backed the Patreon campaign, and thanks to you for watching this video. Thanks for making it all the way to the end on this Wednesday, halfway through our week. Hope you enjoyed it. And with that, I hope you'll be back tomorrow for that historical solve. And until that point, please do have an excellent remainder of your Wednesday. Take care.